A lot of people assume that you need a huge property portfolio to generate serious rental incomes. But one investor managed to build themselves a property portfolio generating over £4,000 per month, only buying 3 properties. Now, that doesn't just happen by accident. At RW Invest, we've spent more than 2 decades helping investors navigate the UK property market. And over that time, we've seen how certain choices can quietly shape whether a property portfolio generates great rental income or struggles to get off the ground. So in this video, we're going to walk you through exactly how he built his property portfolio, the mistakes that he deliberately avoided along the way, and what you can take from his approach if you're looking to do the same thing. Before we get into how we did it, we need to clear something up, because the way most people would think about building a property portfolio is actually what ends up stopping them in the first place. Most people would assume that making serious money from investment property means owning a massive portfolio. And on top of that, they assume that you need to be based in London and buying in London to make it work. So they either delay because they can't afford those crazy London prices, or they don't start at all because 3 properties doesn't sound like quite enough. Our investor, we'll call him Sam. He started with absolutely none of that. No London postcodes, no 10 property blueprints, just a clear strategy, the right regions, and a decision to start with 1 property and then build around that from there. The reality is, in the right regional cities, a well-structured portfolio of just 3 properties can realistically generate you £4,000 plus per month in gross rental income. We're talking yields of 6 to 8% in cities like Liverpool, Manchester, even Birmingham, places where prices are that little bit lower than the central London postcodes. But demand is extremely strong and the numbers actually work in your favor. That's not a shortcut. It's just knowing where to look. So, how did he actually do it? Let's walk through it step by step, starting with the single most important decision that he made before he even put a deposit down. Most first-time investors will aim to default to buying somewhere close to home. It feels familiar and like they know the areas, which will give an investor that little bit of comfort. Or they fixate on London because it feels prestigious and like a safe choice. Instead of buying in his hometown for convenience or chasing the big London postcodes for the name attached to them, he simply looked at the data. He narrowed it down and focused on 3 cities of interest: Liverpool, Manchester, and Birmingham. He based his decisions on one thing, and that's where the fundamentals of purchasing and data was showing the strongest potential results. Strong rental demand, major employment hubs, active regeneration pipelines, and yields that actually made a lot of sense on paper. His first purchase was a 1-bed in Liverpool's L3 postcode. This is on the northern side of Liverpool city centre, very close to the area now known as the Knowledge Quarter, which is the student district of the city. Close to key businesses, close to all 3 of the major universities, and close to Liverpool's famous Royal Hospital, the training hospital for doctors and nurses for the UK. He paid roughly £190,000 for his apartment. It projected around about a 7% rental return. And because it was modern and energy efficient, it ran quickly and needed minimal work up front. As a result of this, his first reliable monthly surplus after mortgage and costs, not life-changing on its own, but a solid foundation to build from. This matters because location drives everything downstream: your yield, your void periods, your tenant quality, and your long-term potential for capital growth as well. Regional cities like Liverpool, like Manchester, and like Birmingham, and even places like Newcastle have been consistently outperforming cities in the south when it comes to yields. And according to Savills, the Northwest, East Yorkshire, and Scotland are projected to see capital growths between 20 and 30% over the next 5 years. That's not speculation. That's data taken from some of the biggest property statistics research companies in the country. His golden rule: only buy into locations with a proven tenant demand, clear employment hubs, of course, massively important for your tenant pool, and a realistic case for both strong yields and strong capital growth potentials. Don't let convenience or prestige drive your decision making. Pull the yield data, look at where the big regeneration money and major institutional guys are putting their money. Look at where the young professionals and students of the country are moving to and need to live. If the numbers stack up and the demand is consistent, that's your shortlist. Now, most people spend hours trying to figure out what their rental income will actually look like after mortgage, costings, and voidings. And that's why we've built a free rental income calculator. It does the maths for you in literally minutes. Just plug in the property price, the location of the property, and the expected rents, and it will give you a realistic picture of what you can expect to be making from your assets. The link is in the description. Getting location right was step one, but the type of property that he chose to buy within that location was just as deliberate as the area he selected to buy into. And that's an area where lots of investors are quietly setting themselves up for massive headaches. There's a common belief or misconception that any cheap property in a decent area will do the job. Older stock, quirky conversions, budget Victorian terraced houses. As long as the price is low, it'll yield well. The issue is that buying cheap doesn't always mean a property ends up cheap to own. In fact, it can often mean exactly the opposite. And as energy efficiency regulations are being tightened, older stock with poor EPC ratings is becoming increasingly difficult and expensive to manage. Not to mention issues with the property itself. You can find with lots of older properties, they'll have electrical headaches, plumbing headaches, issues with the roofs, all of those things that you don't necessarily factor into your decision making at the time of purchase. Sam made a very deliberate decision early on. He would only buy new build properties or very recently refurbished properties. He looked for energy efficient properties rating A, B, or C. He promised himself no fixer-uppers, no potential issues with old boilers, no potential leaking roofs, any of those extra unforeseen headaches that can come from buying those older properties. He wanted simple, clean transactions where he knew exactly where he stood. After building some equity and a rental surplus from his first property, he remortgaged to release that extra equity that he'd generated. And he used that combined with his accumulated rental income as the deposit for his second property purchase. Property 2 was a 2-bedroom apartment on Salford Quays, near to Media City in the M50 postcode. The property cost around about £300,000 and was targeting a 6% yield. Modern spec, energy efficient, and in the location, which is a key area for working professional tenants. I mean, after all, it's right on the doorstep of Media City, home to ITV, BBC, to name a few. With his Liverpool property and his Manchester property both tenanted, his gross rent passed £2,500 per month. This approach protects you in 2 ways. First, energy efficient homes are increasingly what tenants want. Of course, bills are getting more and more expensive and houses more expensive to heat. And of course, the tenants want to spend as little on having to pay those bills as is possible. Lower running costs mean that the tenants are much more likely to stay longer, which means fewer void periods for you as an owner and more stability in your rental income, which I think is hugely important. Secondly, the regulations around EPC ratings for rental properties are being tightened by 2030. New tenancies are expected to require an energy efficiency rating of grade C or above. Investors who haven't prioritized this now may be facing significant retrofit costings or major compliance issues further down the line. When evaluating any property to be bought on the buy-to-let basis. Always check the EPC rating ahead of anything else. If you're buying a new build, this is usually built in for you. If you're buying older stock, factor in those potential retrofit costings because that bargain might not stay a bargain for long. Now, this next step is where most people hit the wall. Most people treat each property purchase as a completely separate financial event. Earn, save, deposit, repeat. The problem is that this approach is painfully slow. What they miss is that the portfolio itself, if managed well, starts generating the capital that you need to grow it. You don't always need a new pile of cash. You need to plan to recycle your working capital back in to allow you to grow that bit quicker. By year 4, Sam had steady rental income from both Salford and Liverpool. And both properties had also seen meaningful capital appreciation because he put his money near to those major regeneration projects. Rather than spending that rental surplus or leaving it idle, he ring-fenced it, kept it building alongside his capital growth equity. And when the time came, he remortgaged his Liverpool property and used that equity combined with his stacked rental surplus to fund property number 3. That third property was an ultra-modern apartment in prime central Birmingham, B1 postcode, at roughly £250,000. Once that was tenanted, his total gross rent comfortably crossed the £4,000 per month marker. 3 properties, 4 years, no second mortgages on his home, no windfall, just a disciplined, repeatable process. And this is what portfolio growth actually looks like in practice. Not a lottery win, but a compounding engine. Regional capital growth quietly builds equity. Rent surplus assists in building your next deposit. Remortgaging releases that extra equity at the right moment. Reinvest and repeat. It doesn't require you to be a millionaire to start. It requires patience, a clear structure, and putting the time into the research. From day one, treat your rental surplus as a business asset and not personal income. Open a separate account for it. Set a reserve for void periods and maintenance costings. And stay in regular contact with a broker so you know exactly when your equity position will allow you to remortgage. Most investors wait that little bit too long because they don't always have visibility on the numbers. And that's a real mistake. Of course, none of this happened by accident. Alongside the decision he made, there were just as many that he deliberately chose not to make. And honestly, these might be the most important part of the entire story. Most investors learn what not to do the hard way. They get burned by a flashy postcode that doesn't really yield. They buy older, tired stock that becomes a headache and a bit of a burden. They stretch themselves too thin and can't cover the void periods. Albeit, if you're buying in the right areas, those void periods should be minimal. Sam avoided all of those things because he had a framework and a process. He trusted that process and stuck to it. He didn't chase London for the prestige. He didn't buy cheap stock in weaker areas just to get access to those low prices. He didn't overlook his buffers. He kept sensible reserves for void periods, maintenance, and changes in interest rates. And he didn't buy from the speculative off-plan developers with no track records and no real ability to deliver the promises they make. Every developer that he worked with had a proven history of completed buildings and high-quality finishes upon delivery. Each of these mistakes have a real cost attached to them. Buying in low-yield, high-price markets ties up capital with weak returns and minimal equity growth. Ignoring the energy efficiency regulations tightening sets you up for major future regeneratory shocks that can be expensive and can lead to tenants choosing better homes than yours to take as their next rentals. Longer voids and weaker rents all come from these kinds of processes. Over-leveraging without reserve means one bad month can create a forced sale at the wrong time. And buying from unreliable developers can mean delays, subpar finishes, or worse. Build yourself a simple checklist before committing to any property purchase. Does the yield stack up against those comparable local rents? Is the EPC rating at C or above? Do I have a 3 to 6 month void reserve? Does the developer or agency have a proven and verifiable track record? If any of those answers are unclear, dig deeper before you sign anything or step away from the deal altogether. Now, it's one thing to understand the strategy on paper. It's another thing entirely to know whether it actually works for your situation. We've been working with investors at every stage of their investment journey over the course of the last 20 plus years. If you want to talk through what a realistic path for investment property could look like for you, book a free call with me using the link in the description. Now, if you were starting fresh in 2026, where exactly would you buy? Because the cities that made sense 5 years ago aren't necessarily the same cities that make sense today. We cover that in detail in our next video. Watch that one next.